it's Mary. I hope that all is well in your world. So today we are going to continue our exploration of trees, and we are going to take a look at some of the coniferous trees in my woods. Coniferous trees are the cone-bearing trees, and you may have heard them called evergreens because they stay green and keep their needles during the winter. So we are going to start with the red pine. So the red pine is a tall pine tree, and it has long needles. And the needles are on the branches in bundles of 2. So this is just needles that have fallen from the red pine, and they're still linked together in their bundle of 2. The red pine needles are long and relatively coarse. The thing I like best about the red pine is the bark. So the bark is a reddish-brown color, hence the name red pine, and it is on the tree in scaly plates. So sometimes it'll fall off and you'll find it laying on the ground beneath the tree. Red pines also have small pine cones, and what I will do is bring you in closer for a look at the bark. We'll see if we can see any bark laying on the ground. So there is red pine bark. And if we look down, you can see some of the scaly pieces laying there as well. If we look up, that will give you an idea of the branches and what they look like from below. And you can see pine cones on the branches. And if we look from across the road, we can look up and get an idea of the silhouette of the tree. And those are 2 growing right along next to each other. If you look down the road, you can see a red pine on the left. And that'll give you an idea of the silhouette of the tree. So next we have the white pine, which is also a tall pine tree when mature. I don't happen to have any mature white pine in my woods, so we will just take a look at this white pine, which is a little less mature, but we'll get the general idea of what a white pine has to offer. So a white pine has shorter, more delicate needles than the red pine, and they are arranged in a bundle of 5. When mature, a white pine has gray bark with furrows in it, or ridges. I will bring you in closer to take a look at this white pine. So there are the needles of the white pine. And there is the bark of this white pine. And as you can see, it's fairly smooth. And when it gets older, as it ages, it ends up with ridges and furrows. A cool thing about this area of the woods is that you have the white pine, and you can get a sense of the needles of the white pine, right alongside a red pine, so you can get a sense of the arrangement of the needles on the red pine. So now we'll take a look at the white spruce. The white spruce is a slender evergreen with a narrow conical crown. The branches are relatively horizontal, except when you get to the lower branches where they might droop down. The needles are single and in a tight spiral, and I will bring you in closer to get a look at the needles. So there are the needles of the white spruce. If we look up, you can see the arrangement of the branches. And there is the bark. So it's a light gray color. It's relatively smooth. And it's got flaky areas. If we again move across the road, you can get a sense for the shape of the white spruce, although this one's partnered with an aspen, so it's had its growth a little restrained. We have one last pine tree and one last coniferous tree to look at, and this is the smallest of Minnesota's 3 native pine trees, and it's the jack pine. People often think of a jack pine as a scraggly little tree, and that can be true, but it can also be true that jack pine can grow to over 100 feet, and there have been jack pine identified in the Boundary Waters Canoe area that are as old as 243 years. So let's take a look at my favorite pine tree, the jack pine. Jack pine have short needles. They're rarely over 2.5 inches, and I would say that the needles on our jack pine are probably less than that. They are in bundles of 2, and they are usually curved on the branches. The pine cones on a jack pine, when they are unopened, grow parallel with the branch and are often curved inward. The bark is usually a dark gray and it's scaly. So I'll bring you in closer to take a look at the bark on this jack pine. So there is the bark on this jack pine. You can see that it's scaly. Looking upward, you can get a sense for the needles arrangement on the branches. And they almost look like little puffs. Going across the street, we can get a look at the shape of the tree. So that was a quick look at some of the characteristics of the coniferous trees in my woods. I hope that this inspires you to get out, explore your area, and see what kind of trees you can discover. I will link in the description below to the original tree video I did with deciduous trees. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you keep exploring your world. Thank you.